Okay, we're going live, everybody. Let me know when we're on. Okay, we are live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm Delegate Robin Lewis. This is the Land Use and Ethics Subcommittee of the Environment and Transportation Committee in the Maryland General Assembly. It's March 4th, 2025. Thanks, everyone, for being here. We have two bills on our agenda. The first, and we have about 30 minutes. So I do apologize for the compressed time frame. We had hoped to have a lot more time, but we'll do what we can with the time we have. All right. Now, thank you. So we have two bills on our agenda. The first is House Bill 1128, Land Bank Authorities, Powers and Authority. Ben is our counsel on this bill. Ben, would you be so kind to walk us through?
Okay, thank you, Chair Lewis. The title is Land Bank Authorities, Power and Authority. There's no fiscal impact. There's no state fiscal impact. The local fiscal impact is that to the extent that the bill improves land bank authorities' effectiveness in rehabilitating properties, the local governments may benefit, including through increased tax revenue collection. The testimony is all favorable, including from MML and MACO. Land banks, just in general, about what this bill is about, are public entities that acquire vacant, abandoned, or tax delinquent properties to support community development. Generally, Baltimore City's testimony notes that so far only Prince George's County and the city of Cambridge have passed legislation creating their land banks. A similar effort in Baltimore City failed. The bill generally enhances the powers of land banks. So to do that, it authorizes a land bank authority to create a special fund to leverage private investment, to make specified loans or grants, to assist with financing projects, to enter into partnerships with other entities to facilitate financing of these projects. Also, another part of the bill is that if an authority, the land bank authority, is selling, leasing, or transferring a property, they are creating an agreement about the property maintenance, outcome or use, and any other conditions. It also authorizes the authority to retake possession or ownership if there's a breach of the agreement. And then the last part is that the bill allows for a county or municipality to authorize a land bank authority to exercise the county or municipality's powers to pursue in rem foreclosure of vacant and uninhabitable properties on which the tax liens exceed the value of the property. In rem foreclosure, real quick, is the foreclosing on a property to collect unpaid tax debt.
Great. Thank you so much, Ben, for walking us through that. Again, this bill was favorable in the committee testimony was all favorable, correct, Ben? There were no unfavorable testimony?
Correct.
Okay, great. Is there any discussion?
Move favorable, Madam Chair.
Second.
Great. The bill has been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just really quickly, can anyone tell me, Ben or someone, if there's a fiscal note on this bill?
There's no state, there's no state fiscal impact, and the local impact is also appears to be minimal, if not zero.
Okay, any small business impact?
One second.
Go ahead, Ben.
So the small business impact is potentially meaningful. Small businesses may meaningfully benefit from any increased demand for their goods or services resulting from land bank authorities' use of the expanded clarified authority under the bill.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Any questions? Okay, the bill's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All right. The bill, House Bill 1128, Land Bank Authorities, passes unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ben. Let's turn to the next bill on our agenda, and that's House Bill 80, land use, transit-oriented development alterations. I'll just, thank you, Jared. I'll just mention again that we do have a compressed time window. We're pushing up against the 7 p.m. Start time for the Housing Subcommittee. So it is now 6:45. So let's do what we can with the time we have. Jared, would you be so kind and expand the size of this, please, for the myopics and presbyopics in the community? Nope. Just use your fingers and stretch the document on your touch screen. Okay, so while he's doing that, I think we have Patrick with us. Patrick, would you be so kind to walk us through House Bill 80?
Yeah, Jared, can you go down to page 4 of 9?
Patrick, where do you want us to stop?
Keep going. Okay, here goes. Stop. Okay. We've seen this before, except for we've been trying to figure out the correct term. We think we've got it. Legislative body, not all of which have zoning authority, or other local agency with land use authority, may not impose off-street parking down to 0.25 miles. And again, this is language we saw yesterday. If you could go down,
It was the other day, last week, Thursday, I think.
wasn't it yesterday?
Yeah, well, you've been working on it every day, Patrick, but I think the subcommittee last saw this last week. I believe it was last Thursday or
Oh, that's
Friday.
right. We did the ethics yesterday.
Right.
Okay, so go down a little bit. Same page, Jared.
Madam Chair, do you want questions at the end?
What makes sense? Shall we take questions as we go?
I
Did
think
you have a question, Delegate Teresa?
well, I guess I'm just trying to understand on that last one. I don't understand why we're adding that. Like, did somebody request that? Is that
Yes, all of you talked at length about your concerns regarding the term legislative body. There was a great deal of discussion about that from many members on the subcommittee.
I think Delegate Terrazzo, when she was on the council, your council does sit as an ethics commission, a planning commission. Is that correct?
Yes.
But not all of them do.
So I
That's why
think-
that language was added.
But is this trying to control the zoning board or the planning board, or is it the legislative body?
Anything sitting as a planning body.
Okay. I didn't know that was a question, but okay, that's fine.
Okay, if we can go back down. Okay, go down to the next.
Hang on, Patrick, if it's all right with you.
Sure.
Are there any other questions on this section? This is section 2 regarding the 0.25 mile radius, regarding the prohibition on parking minimums. We saw this last time we discussed this bill, which was February 25th. The only thing that's changed here, if I'm not mistaken, in this section, Patrick, is that further sort of definition in the beginning, the legislative body or other local agency with land use authority, that was requested by the subcommittee and various folks asking to make it really clear. In addition, what we have here is additional language on the hourly service, qualification for the rail stop. Okay, so this is all familiar other than the special clarifications. This is not new. Delegate Davis, then Delegate Lehman, then Delegate Long.
Madam Chair, it's not really a question, it's a concern. I believe we've all seen this for a couple weeks now. I'd like to move the bill so we can have a discussion and then hopefully
Second.
pass the bill.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so we're moving the amendments, I think, Delegate Davis, right?
All right, we'll move the amendments. Thank you.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. And that's been, okay, the amendments have been properly moved and seconded. Yes, I think this is our third discussion on this bill. So thank you. Yep, it is our third discussion. So let's keep going. Patrick, we finished section 2. Where would you like Jared? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Delegate Lehman had a question. Delegate Lehman.
Yeah, thank you. So actually, I do not recall the discussion around a legislative body. I mean, to me, a legislative body is pretty obvious. It's one that's been elected. So I don't recall a conversation about needing to further clarify that. But now that we have, and we have this underline or other local agency with land use authority, I'm thinking of, my county of residence. I represent 2 counties, but my county of residence is Prince George's. So is it safe to assume then that this includes in Prince George's and Montgomery too, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission? Because
Yeah, it should be.
it has a significant amount of land use authority.
Patrick.
Yeah, it should. I mean, if they're making land use, then we want this to apply to them.
Okay. I kind of have mixed feelings about that. I mean, they take in Prince George's, the county council sits as the district council and decides land use, but their decisions are premised, on the planning board making a decision first. Did Park and Planning weigh in on this change? Are they aware of this?
No.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm going to ask to hold the bill if that's the case. That's a huge concern. This was all around legislative bodies, not around appointed boards and bodies. I don't know how we could do that. I'm not even sure. They come under the state. Partly they're a quasi or partly state, partly local entity. I'm not comfortable supporting this if Park and Planning's not aware of this change.
We could also move the bill to full committee and consult with them between now and then.
Well, that's just a significant change. I'll just say this. In Prince George's, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning, the planning board, the planning side, not the recreation side, obviously, the planning side reviews development applications first and then sends a recommendation to the county council sitting as the district council to approve, deny or approve with conditions. And then the council considers, what the planning board says. If the planning board can't even make recommendations, based on its guidelines and our zoning policies, then the council has nothing to work from. This kind of turns this, this bill in my mind partly on its head. And I'm being really honest when I say
if they're making recommendations, and I'm not going to pretend to know this process inside and out, but if they're only making recommendations, then they're not imposing. Then it would be the county council that would be the ultimate decision maker, right?
Yeah, but it's. I mean, what this is saying is that they can't. It goes on to say they can't do these certain things, unless we're going to keep the language in D, and say that's only applicable to parking. That language right there, it doesn't apply to anything else.
Correct.
The other things about. Definitions and height and all that other stuff. So this is meant only to apply to parking.
Parking, right, in a TOD.
Okay, well, I'm probably gonna, if we vote on this in subcommittee with this language, I just have a concern. I probably vote against it then. This is too little notice on something that's unique in Prince George's.
Thank you, Delegate Lehman. Delegate Long.
Madam Chair, I move the bill as amended.
I second it.
Okay, is there
But
discussion?
point of order, Delegate Lehman already asked to hold the bill.
And I,
Delegate
I'm
Lehman,
sorry.
I heard you say that you probably would vote against the bill. Could you clarify your statement, Delegate Lehman? Because I'm sorry if I
Well,
missed that.
yeah, if I can't get an answer to my concern, and I'm not going to be able to right now at this, hour, about whether Park and Planning was consulted or whether that's a concern, I think we should hold the bill. I would like to hold it, but procedurally, I don't, Mr. Delegate Long or somebody made a motion before me.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Thanks, everybody. I know we're all feeling a little rushed, and we actually are rushed. But I would recommend that what we're going to do is we're going to continue to discuss this bill. And I called on a couple of people, and I would see several hands raised. So I would suggest that since the amendments have been properly moved and seconded already before Delegate Lehman
Madam Chair,
made a request, I want to call on Delegate Long, as I said I would.
thank you, Madam Chair. Point of order. So I actually made a motion. So I think that needs to be either voted up or down.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I believe the original, if I could just, Delegate Davis made a motion on the amendments. That was seconded by either me or Delegate Holmes. So the question before the body now is the second on these amendments. That's the vote that's pending before the body right now.
Yes, the bill's been moved, the amendments have been moved and seconded. We're now in discussion.
Yep.
Madam Chair, we can't, just point of order, why can't we hold a bill after that? I mean, I thought the whole point was we were going to move and second them so we could discuss them. I did not understand that to mean that we couldn't hold the bill. I'm very uncomfortable with the vote today on this. There are very significant amendments, and this is not even the biggest of them. And that's since I last looked at it a day ago.
Thank you, Delegate Terrasa. I'd like to continue the discussion. I've made note of Delegate Lehman's request to hold the bill, but the amendments had already been moved, seconded, and we are in discussion. And I think in the interest of the little bit of time we have, I'd like to acknowledge, thank you, Delegate Long. I'd like to acknowledge Delegate Naraki, who's had his hand up that I can see. And in the last few minutes we have, let's continue our discussion. And we obviously have to end at 7. So Delegate Naraki, would you go ahead?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I apologize if this was already answered. I had to take a quick call, and I'm back now fully focused on this. I know we talked about one type of other body, but can we give an example of like what some of these other legislative bodies may be? I'm really struggling with it, and it's a big thing here. So I don't fully understand what's going on here with that.
Patrick?
Well, some counties, don't forget, we're talking counties and municipalities here. Some counties have their county councils sit as the planning board. Some don't. So they might have their own planning board.
Does that answer your question, Delegate Naraki?
Madam Chair, may I have a follow-up to that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So Patrick, first of all, thank you for that. So if I understand this, then we could have a sort of completely unelected body that doesn't have any, responsibility to the voters. I'll say it that way, kind of making some really big decisions here, and we can't really hold them accountable in the way that elected officials typically.
Well, this bill has nothing to do with that.
Well, I mean, the planning board in Baltimore County is not elected. So if the planning board in Baltimore County were that body that was making these kind of decisions, they're not held accountable to the voters. So I'm just trying to understand, like, is it those kinds of bodies that aren't elected that could be?
Well, all this provision is doing is saying that the local planning board may not impose a minimum off-street parking requirement, whether it's a legislative body elected or other local agency with land use authority unelected.
Okay.
Whatever it is, this applies to.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Delegate. Thanks, Patrick. Delegate Long, is your hand still up?
Yes, I want to know about the vote for the amendments.
Okay, so since your hand was still up, since we haven't had a chance to go through all of the updated amendments since the last version of the reprint, I think it behooves us to review all of the amendments since our last meeting. So I'm not sure if that is the direction we want to go in the last 30 seconds. So I think now that the clock is striking 7 and Delegate Holmes, Chair Holmes' subcommittee is going to convene shortly. Is that right, Delegate Holmes? We need to let.
That is correct. I would suggest, however, that we have a motion and a second on the amendments, and we either need to vote on those amendments or recall that motion.
I see.
I see.
A motion on the amendment.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I voted for that motion because I thought the point was to discuss it. And this is, I mean, this is really very different from any process I've ever seen in subcommittee. And I'm pretty upset about it. There are very significant amendments in here that need to be worked on, and I would like to be able to vote for this bill.
Patrick, do you have any guidance?
We only got it during committee. And I've been doing everything I can to go through it and talk to the governor's office and talk to Mako and talk to whoever since then, including while I was in, local government. I don't understand why we're voting that like this and why we need to.
Well, regardless of what the subcommittee votes, you can continue talking about it. And I would, been playing a little phone tag with Delegate Terraza. I wouldn't mind talking to her too, if she'd still like to talk.
I would, absolutely.
Okay. So, thanks everyone. This is a bill that merits a lot of thoughtful discussion, and we knew we had a very compressed window of time, and our goal was to review the amendments since our last meeting in this current reprint. So I think I'm just going back to Chair Holmes as
I would like to call the question on the amendments, Madam Chair.
Yes, okay. Do I have a
Second.
second? Okay.
Again,
And the question,
has to hold
and
bill.
the
We didn't
question,
hold the bill.
okay. So we're having an orderly meeting about an important bill, and we're all a bit tired, so let's just be patient. So Delegate Holmes moved the question, and it was seconded. So all in favor of moving the question, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I think what that does, it gives us the freedom to come back and discuss the bill when we have more time. All right? And okay, how does that sound?
Madam Chair,
Me.
and again, I'm gonna say this. I was gonna make a motion to move the bill as amended. We are in a 90-day session. We are all aware this is a very fast-paced environment. We are all aware of all that comes along with it. We are all aware. I do believe that a lot of us have had discussions with the administration. I've had discussions with folks from labor. I've had discussions with folks from various entities, right? And because we're moving a bill from subcommittee does not mean that we cannot come back in the full committee process and then bring forth additional amendments and have further discussions. I do not believe that. And I'm just new to this body. So I'm moving the bill as amended.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate Davis, is your hand up?
Yeah, my hand was up.
Thank you, Delegate. Go ahead, please.
I'm
And
not-
if Delegate Holmes would be so kind to give us another minute.
Well, Delegate Holmes moved the previous question.
No, I'm just saying if he would be, just let us finish
Continue
our
on.
business before he has to start his subcommittee.
That's
Thank
my
you,
first-
Delegate Davis. Please go ahead.
My first question is, didn't Delegate Holmes move the whatever he didn't?
Yeah, he moved the question.
And the question was
That was on the amendments.
on the amendment. So we didn't vote on that. You were about to close out, and we hadn't voted on that. That was the question he moved.
Why can't the bill be held after that motion is made?
Because I think most of the members have made it clear here that they're prepared to move forward on the bill, And as the chair, I'm going to do my best here to listen and also get our work done. So I do want to reflect on Delegate Long's statement that we are in a 90-day session. We have all had weeks working with this bill. We've all had conversations with the department, with stakeholders. My understanding is that some people have had a lot of extra input and conversation. So what we're trying to do here in the little time we had was discuss the amendments. And the amendments were moved and seconded, and we're in discussion. And now we have a couple of other steps, and I'll be honest, as a new subcommittee chair, I need a little bit more guidance on what to do, which is why I asked Delegate Holmes. So if I'm understanding what we need to do at this time, with all due respect to all the members, and I see hands, and I know everyone is has an input here, but as the chair, I'd like to have an orderly meeting. So Delegate Holmes moved the question on the amendments, which is will we vote on the amendments? That was properly seconded. As chair running this meeting, that makes sense to me procedurally, and we do have time to continue our discussions, to continue refining this important bill. So I'm going to call a motion for all those in favor of moving the amendments, say aye.
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 Shall we take a roll call, Patrick? Would that be procedurally appropriate? Or is it just a voice vote in subcommittee?
Is this on whether to move the amendment or the amendments themselves?
This is on whether to, I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
The amendments have been moved. It's on the amendment.
Yeah, this is on the amendments. All those in favor have said aye, so I think that closes out our discussion on the amendments.
Well, Madam
moved
Chair,
it-
I want
I
to vote
moved to
no
hold
on
the
the
bill.
amendments. You didn't ask if anyone wanted to vote no. I'm voting no on the amendments.
Oh my goodness.
I'm absolutely voting no on the.
Okay, all right, thank you. The ayes have it.
And I'm asking to hold the bill.
Okay, Patrick, I do need some guidance here, if you could be helpful on procedure as a new subcommittee chair.
We'll take a vote, see if it has the votes.
Okay. Great. I see a couple of hands up, but since the amendments have been moved by a majority, I'd entertain a motion to move the bill as amended.
But I already
Let's
asked.
move it as amended.
Delegate Terraza made a motion to hold it, and I was going to second that. Nobody seconded Delegate Long's motion to move the amended bill.
Delegate Davis did.
I
Yes,
did.
she did.
Oh, I didn't hear that. I thought she was returning to the amendments again. This is a very confusing
That
conversation.
was done before.
Okay,
the
guys,
bill.
all right. We have to close out because our fellow Housing Subcommittee folks have a scheduled meeting. What we've done is start reviewing the amendments. They've been moved, seconded. They've been voted by the majority of the members. We're out of time, so I think procedurally what's appropriate is to schedule a follow-up meeting where we will continue our discussion on House Bill 80. Is that procedurally appropriate, council?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so we still have work to do, but I'll entertain a motion to adjourn so that our subcommittee colleagues can continue.
So
Do I hear
moved.
a second?
Second.
Great. Okay, thanks everyone. We are adjourned. Watch your emails for our